History begins with the Dragon Clan. The strongest race on the continent of Samael dominates ancient magic. Although their numbers are small, they are incredibly powerful and the greatest enemy of humanity on this continent. The reasons for the war are deeply buried in history. No one knows what happened in the beginning. However, the endless slaughter between humans and dragons on this continent has been ongoing for hundreds of years. The long war has caused both sides to suffer many casualties, each paying a high price in this long-lasting conflict. There are no negotiations, no compromises, no mercy. For hundreds of years, neither side has been able to determine a winner. And even today, with so many lives lost, humans and dragons continue to hate each other. In the year 1733 in the calendar of creation, the most powerful dragon hunter of humanity led a team to attack the Silver Dragon Clan. They were determined to destroy the main enemy of the current empire, the Queen of the Silver Dragons, Ross Vase. However, the empire's greatest dragon hunter, Leon, was betrayed by his own people and became a prisoner of the Dragon Nation. In the dungeon of the Silver Dragons, the guards doing their job noticed the presence of a valuable visitor and greeted Her Majesty, the Dragon Queen. Waving to her servants, she ordered them to leave. First, she wanted to have a private conversation with the prisoner. Following her command, the guards bid farewell and left the dungeon. After their departure, she entered the cell of the great dragon-slaying hero and asked him, "How does it feel to become a prisoner of the enemy clan?" Instead of answering, he asked her to take his life quickly, but with a smile, she asked if he truly wanted her to give him a swift death. Holding his chin, she said, "Unfortunately, it's not that simple. I don't want to lose my toy so quickly. I want to have more fun with it." He was a handsome and determined man, and if she added a few more scars to his face, it would be perfect. Feeling the pain of the wound she inflicted on his face, Leon gritted his teeth without making a sound, not wanting to give her that satisfaction. Then, he shouted at her to stop humiliating him and either take his life or cut him into pieces, but to act quickly. Passing her blood-stained finger over her tongue, Ross Vase commented that no matter how powerful he was, he ended up in this miserable state because he was betrayed by a companion. It would be better for him to join the Silver Dragon Clan. With a mocking smile, Leon asked if she thought herself worthy of being his queen. His comment made her lose patience and send him flying away with a simple flick of her tail. As he coughed up blood from the impact, she stepped on his stomach and asked, "How dare a prisoner be so rude to me, the Queen of Dragons? Do you, Leon Cosmod, still believe you're the great hero of humanity, praised by thousands? Do you still dream of exterminating the Dragon Clan and leaving behind a good reputation for future generations? If so, you should wake up from that fantasy now, because you're just a worthless, ungrateful prisoner who will die in this filthy cell. Maybe," she continued, "you could have given your descendants the chance to enjoy wealth, but unfortunately you have no heir, so that day will never come." Despite his miserable situation, the hero's willpower didn't wane. He warned the Dragon Queen not to underestimate humans. Irritated by his stubbornness, she wrapped her tail around his neck and began squeezing slowly, enjoying his expression of pain. When he was about to pass out, he called out to Her Majesty. Excited, she asked if he was ready to beg for mercy, but unlike what she expected, he said she made two mistakes from the start. First, you shouldn't be alone with the most powerful dragon hunter ever trained. Second, and more importantly, you should never have tasted my blood. At that moment, a magical spell activated in his pupils. He triggered the blood curse, and her eyes turned red. Alarmed, the Dragon Queen released her enemy and backed away. She felt an intense heat spreading through her body, her legs losing strength as she fell to her knees on the ground. Confused, she wondered what was happening, and the hero provided the answer. He declared that very soon, she would live with soul-wrenching pain for the rest of her life. When he said this, she gritted her teeth and lunged at him again, capturing him once more. Leon was confused, not understanding what was happening, but upon seeing her expression, he finally realized what was going on. He was shocked. He hadn't expected her to become excited in this situation. Before he could think of a way to escape, the Dragon Queen kissed him deeply. Despite her being humanity's enemy, he couldn't resist, and things escalated quickly. An hour later, when the spell's effect diminished, Ross Vase regained self-control and was confused by the situation, but in the next moment, she was filled with rage and demanded to know what he had done to her. Though she threatened him with her tail, he wasn't afraid, and calmly explained that the blood curse is a forbidden technique that can only be used once in a lifetime. By tasting his blood, a soul connection was formed between them. When he dies, the curse will bring her endless pain. Not wanting to accept this reality, she screamed that it was nonsense. If this spell takes effect after his death, then what had just happened? He replied that it was an accident. He always thought the pain caused by his death would be the manifestation of it all. He hadn't expected that its side effect would be that. Embarrassed, she ordered him to shut up. But he ignored her and remarked that, as far as he knew, dragons followed the rule of monogamy. After his death, the great silver dragon queen wouldn't be able to find a new mate, let alone leave descendants. She wouldn't even be able to explain to the dragon clan why all of this happened. The effect of this forbidden spell far exceeded his expectations. Mocking her even more, he asked, "What was it that you said earlier? That I wouldn't have an heir? Well, now you won't either. There won't be a successor to the royal line of the silver dragons." Losing patience, Ross Vase lashed out at him again. Though feeling her murderous intent, the hero didn't retreat and told her that if she wanted to take his life, she didn't have to do it herself. He would die soon enough. Even though his death was near, he was happy knowing she would live with hatred for him and pain throughout her life. This was his curse upon her as a human. After saying these words, he lost consciousness. Seeing this, the Dragon Queen regained her composure. She asked, "Who do you think you are, to die after avenging yourself in such a despicable way? I won't let you go so easily." While saying this, she activated a dragon spell, and a tattoo appeared on the chest of the dragon hunter. Leon Cosmod was a legendary hero, a dragon exterminator. When he was 5 years old, he killed his neighbor's rabid dog with his bare hands. He was stopped by a top dragoner passing by and was accepted as his apprentice. At the age of 10, he entered the Imperial Academy of Dragon Exterminators for further studies, and 4 years later, he graduated as the youngest and highest-rated student in history. At 15, he set foot on the battlefield to eliminate dragons, slew numerous dragons, reclaimed territories, and achieved countless military victories for the Empire. Leon is known as the strongest hero, the greatest dragon hunter, and the only hope of leading the Empire to victory and ending the war. But things went wrong along the way, and he ended up becoming a captive of the Dragon Clan. 2 years have passed since Leon was captured. After spending so much time in a coma, he finally opened his eyes. It seemed like he had woken up from a nightmare. After calming down a little, he looked around and wondered where he was. While feeling confused, he heard the door to the room open, and a cute little girl appeared. Happy that he was awake, he was surprised to see such a cute little girl. Because of her, he ended up having a misunderstanding. He got it all wrong and started thinking that because he had made a great contribution to humanity, he had entered heaven, and she must be the legendary angel. Confused, the little girl asked, "What is an angel?" Instead of answering, he greeted her and asked her name, and the girl replied that her name was Anna. While praising her name, Leon wondered in his mind why the hair color of this angel was so strange. Black and white hair. The little girl added that her mother said her name means moon. While wondering if angels also have mothers, he introduced himself, saying his name was Leon. To his surprise, little Anna cheerfully said that she knew Leon means lion. Surprised, he asked who taught her that, and the little girl replied that it was also her mother who told her that. His curiosity piqued. He asked who the girl's mother was, and she sweetly replied that her mother is Ross Vase. Naturally, this revelation shocked the protagonist, making him worry about the possibility that scares any man after a good time. To his dismay, Anna confirmed his worst fear. She revealed that he is her father. This was the most shocking revelation he had ever had in his entire life. This cute little girl was actually his daughter with the Queen of Dragons. When he heard Anna call her mother, he snapped out of his shock and looked in the direction of the culprit behind his situation, seeing Anna calling Ross Vase Mom and saying that Dad has woken up. After doting on her daughter a little, the Dragon Queen congratulated him on finally waking up, and the little girl innocently commented that her mom must be happy to see Dad awake because she visited him every day. With a malicious smile, she said her daughter was right. Of course, Leon didn't believe it. Ignoring the angry face he was making, she asked her daughter to leave first and play in the garden, saying she had something to discuss with her dad. With the girl gone, the protagonist asked if she was really his daughter, and the Dragon Queen replied that she is their biological daughter. Indignant, he said that she hates him. So why did she give birth to a child of his, and why did she save him? She answered that he had been sleeping for 2 years, and she couldn't just leave it at that after what he did to her 2 years ago. Without wavering, he asked if she thought he wanted to do that. They are different and cannot coexist. If it were in any other situation, he would never have touched her. As she got closer to his face, she smiled and asked if touching her was torture for him, and he replied without hesitation that it was, of course. Wrapping her tail around his leg, she pushed him onto the bed and advanced like a lioness after her prey. Worried, the hero asked what she was trying to do, but before responding, she ripped her blouse with a simple motion. Then, activating her spell, she answered that she was going to carve her own dragon mark on him. Scared, he told her not to do that, but his fearful reaction only made her more excited. Without hesitation, she started her fun, while saying that this tattoo would become his shame, meaning that from now on, he would be her prisoner and could never leave her. When his fellow humans saw the dragon tattoo on his body, they would think that the great dragon hunter had become a traitor and surrendered to the dragon clan. Frustrated, Leon asked why she went this far. Instead of answering, she asked if he really didn't understand. Leon thought to himself that the concept of vengeance from the dragon race had always been a difficult problem for human dragon scientists. Their revenge is an inhuman behavior, combined with extreme paranoia beyond human comprehension. Interrupting his thoughts, she revealed that she wanted him to live in this shame for his entire life and be severely humiliated by her for the rest of his life. Instead of getting angry with her revelation, he felt a strange emotion. It seemed to have something to do with her spell. Without wasting any more time, she declared that the real fun was about to begin. For the Dragon Queen, it was a great honor to turn Leon, the greatest dragon hunter in human history, into a servant of the Dragon Clan and the closest partner of the Silver Dragon Queen. In a way, though it was so incredible from a human perspective, this was her revenge on the dragon hunter as a dragon. The next day, in Ross Vase's castle, the maids were gossiping about the queen being in a good mood today, and also about the reason being that her husband had woken up. Hidden, Leon overheard their gossip and was surprised that this dragoness had really announced to the public that he was her husband. They had no idea how terrifying that dragon mother was. She had squeezed him for an entire day and night. His waist was nearly broken. That humiliation only made his desire to escape grow stronger. He swore that he would never stay in that place to become her toy. So, putting his plan into action, he analyzed the guards and saw 4 dragons guarding the side door, confirming that it was impossible to leave that place. But he noticed something strange and wondered why there were so few guards at the Silver Dragon's castle today. It was completely different from when he arrived here 2 years ago. It was so quiet and strange. While thinking about this, he saw a hole in the wall and got excited. Of course, he thought it strange to have a hole in that place and suspected that it might be a trap. But that didn't matter. He couldn't think too much now. He had to get out of that place no matter what. Even if it was a trap, he would force his way out. Without wasting any more time, he said goodbye to the dragon mother. However, he thought in his mind about the little dragon girl named Ninha. Although she was very cute, she could only be that creature's daughter. For a while, as he fled, the little girl saw him from afar and warned her mother that her dad was digging a dog hole. Relaxing, the Dragon Queen said she saw it too. "He's really incredible," she said, and her daughter asked when her mommy was going to fish him back. Ross Vase explained to her lovely daughter that she couldn't use the word fish back with her father. It was too rude. Confused, the little girl asked what she should say then, and she replied, "Retrieve." After some time, the protagonist was finally close to escaping. After climbing these mountains, he would be able to see the borders of human territory. But the strange thing was that after running so much, the dragoness should have caught up to him by now. His suspicion was correct. She really had caught up. The only difference was her appearance. With an irritated tone, she commented that he was a good runner. The moment he saw her, he realized he was in trouble and tried to flee without hesitation, but his wife blocked him. Frustrated, he asked if it was fun to play with him like that, and the Dragon Queen replied that she was indeed very satisfied. She then asked if he didn't think everything was going too smoothly. He must have suspected that someone helped him get past the guards and left a hole for him to escape. Leon replied that even if he knew it was a trap, he had no choice. He just didn't expect her to catch up so quickly. She asked another question. What would happen if he returned to human territory now? He already had her mark on his body. Did he think they would still recognize him as a dragon hunter? Angry, he shouted that he would then start his life again as an ordinary person, which was better than being tortured by her. Losing her patience, the Dragon Queen released some of her aura and said that he didn't know how to appreciate her. Near the border city of the Empire, under a large tree in the moonlight, she stopped her advance and released him from the sky. Caught off guard, he started screaming like a little girl. This type of fall would normally take someone's life, but due to the trees, he was able to cushion his fall. After the initial pain of the fall, he paid attention to his surroundings and saw a human city in front of him and the Dragon Queen leaving. Her humanoid form confirmed that this was the human empire. She asked him that when he sees the human city, which he won't see for long, he should feel that he can return to the human world simply by going over it. He has to accept the reality. He can no longer go back, even if it seems close. The moment she said this, the dragon mark appeared on his body, and she explained that she forgot to mention that when one of the two people with the dragon mark wants to do that with the other, the dragon mark will produce a reaction. Now he's feeling heat all over his body and can't bear the urge. The reason she brought him to this place is because she wants him to understand how shameful it is to be in front of his hometown. So close, feeling attracted to humanity's enemy. Using all his willpower, Leon asked if she thought he would lose faith because of this. He will wait patiently until the opportunity for revenge arrives. When it comes, he will repay her double for all the humiliation she caused him. His outburst of anger surprised her a little, but then she gave a beautiful smile and pressed him against the tree trunk, saying, "It's okay, she'll be waiting for him, alive or dead." The Queen of the Dragons was getting ready with a satisfied expression. She happily commented that she was very pleased with Leon's performance. Now, she enjoyed the fun she just had so much that she proposed bringing him here every month to visit his hometown. But unlike her, who was being sincere, the protagonist didn't want to admit that he was enjoying the company of humanity's enemy. Frustrated, he said that she was a female dragon with her head in the clouds, thinking about how to drain him to death, not caring if her real intentions were revealed. She began to transform into her true form while calling him to return now, as their daughter was waiting at home. But unsurprisingly, he refused her ride. As a dragon hunter, he didn't want to be caught by her as prey. He could walk alone. But spoiling his plan, she revealed that from here to the Silver Dragon Castle would take at least 3 hours flying at her speed, and would take at least 10 days or half a day for a human to walk. Despite being shaken by this revelation, he continued pretending to be strong and said that it was only 10 days or half a month. She shouldn't underestimate human endurance. Smiling at his stubbornness, she commented that she wanted to see how long he could resist. After a while walking, Leon was extremely tired, and the Dragon Queen teased him, asking if he couldn't walk anymore and if he needed help. Being stubborn, he replied that he wasn't tired, that he would never get tired so quickly. With a mocking smile, she commented that the only part of him that didn't get tired was his mouth. Her comment made him angry, but before he could argue, they heard a noise in the forest, and they looked towards the sound and saw a dragon hunter army. Excited, he thought to himself that these guys could help him get rid of this dragoness. Realizing his plan, the Dragon Queen unleashed her killing intent. Startled, he realized that if he asked for help, she might kill them without hesitation. Noticing their presence, the soldiers asked if the two were lost, and the protagonist, not wanting innocent lives to be lost because of him, replied that they were just having a moonlit date. Suspecting the couple, a soldier dismounted from his horse and explained that this forest was not a good place to walk around. There were many dangerous species and wild animals, and he offered to escort the couple. He introduced himself, saying his name was Walker, and that he was the captain of the 47th Squadron of the Imperial Dragon Hunters. Feeling a chill run down his spine, Leon thanked him for his kindness and explained that they had also learned some self-defense training and could protect themselves. He didn't want to put the soldiers at risk. Of course, he didn't say that last part out loud. Finding Leon familiar, the soldier asked if he had seen him somewhere before. At that moment, the protagonist looked back and saw the Dragon Queen preparing to attack. Without hesitation, he held her hand, interrupting her attack. Then he pulled her into his arms and responded that the guard had mistaken him for someone else. He had a common face. Only his wife always recognized him. After saying that, he whispered that he would return with her obediently, but she needed to help him get rid of them first. Acting like a loving wife, she hugged her husband. Not wanting to be a third wheel, the soldier said goodbye to the couple and left. After their departure, the Dragon Queen asked if he had hugged enough. Startled, he pulled away from her, and she, holding his wrist, commented that he was smart not to ask them for help, but he had to accept his own position. Even though they had a child, that didn't mean she was his wife. Annoyed by his refusal, he said he never thought of being her husband. Turning around, she called him to leave, saying he still had a long way to go. But suddenly, Leon began to feel intense pain in his hand, and his vision blurred. Before passing out, he noticed his palm was burned, and before fully understanding the situation, he fainted. Seeing him faint, the Dragon Queen commented that humans are very fragile. Despite saying that, she assumed her dragon form, grabbed Leon, and threw him on her back, flying towards her territory while saying that this time she would consider it a plea for mercy. Later, at the Silver Dragon Palace, Leon woke up after a good night's sleep and was greeted by his daughter. Confused about what was happening, he wondered how he had returned to this place, and the girl responded that it was her mother who brought her father back. Upon hearing this, he began to imagine himself being captured like prey. After this terrifying image, he noticed his hand was bandaged and asked who had treated his wound. The little girl, wanting to be praised by her father, responded excitedly that she was the one who bandaged him. Upon hearing this, Leon thought to himself that dragons were caring even from childhood. Although Anna had obvious dragon traits, she wasn't hostile towards him and completely treated him as her father. He wondered if it was because she was a hybrid of human and dragon. Despite his doubts, he couldn't deny that she was extremely cute. He affectionately patted her head and praised her for the great bandage. Happy with her smile, he said that she was so cute, but when she grew up, she shouldn't be like her mother. To his dismay, the Dragon Queen had been watching him for a while and asked what was wrong with being like her. Startled, he replied that there was nothing wrong. Excited, the little girl commented to her mother that she had bandaged Daddy's wound according to her instructions. Instead of praising Anna, Ross Vase said that this was her daughter's duty. Despite her strict demeanor, Anna was thrilled with her praise. Not liking his wife's strictness, he patted his daughter and encouraged her to hide in the garden. He would come out to find her when he counted to 100. Naturally, she was happy to play hide-and-seek with her father. Taking the opportunity to annoy the Dragon Queen, Leon commented that she wasn't like her mother. Then he began counting, and Anna quickly ran to hide while telling her father not to count too fast. Watching his daughter leave the room, Leon called Ross Vase's attention and asked if she wasn't being too harsh on their daughter. She replied that dragons had to go through this. Only by being strict with their children from a young age could they raise strong warriors. Not liking the dragon's parenting style, he said that their daughter wasn't entirely a dragon. Besides, she was too cute, and she couldn't deny that. Not liking his words, she said that her daughter was a dragon, and cute was a derogatory term for dragons. Acting as if he were attacking, he complimented her, saying she was very beautiful too. Losing her patience, she grabbed his shirt and shouted that he was just a servant. To vent her anger, he should stop trying to act like her real husband. Instead of getting irritated by her arrogant attitude, Leon made a puppy dog face. This expression made her anger fade, and she said it was good that he understood. She was the queen of the Silver Dragon clan, and she had many governmental matters to deal with, so the task of taking care of the children was left to him. Then she whispered in his ear that the little girl liked him. Later in the courtyard, frustrated, Leon imitated the Dragon Queen and commented that she talked as if dragon hunters weren't busy and were responsible for taking care of children. Sensing the gaze of someone familiar, he thought to himself that his daughter was still very naive. She thought she couldn't be found by hiding behind him. Turning in her direction, he exclaimed that he had found her, but strangely, she didn't react. Confused, he wondered if she was angry. Awkwardly, he scratched his head and apologized for making her wait, but before he could finish his apology, she suddenly ran off, and confused, he chased after her, asking what had happened and why she was running. Not knowing the place well, he lost sight of her and thought to himself that it's really hard to predict a child's mood. No wonder Ross Vey gave him the task of looking after the little girl. While thinking about how to cheer her up again, Anina hugged him from behind and shouted that she had captured her father. Confused, he asked if she hadn't just passed by him, and she, not understanding what he was saying, replied no. Since he couldn't find her, she had gone out to look for her father. Her response left him even more confused. Ignoring his confusion, she said she had something to show her father. As she pulled him by the arm, a little girl identical to Anina watched them walk away. A few minutes later, Leon was watching Anna drawing with a smile on her face and thought to himself that it's actually nice to have a daughter. It feels like his soul is being healed. He vowed in his mind that sooner or later, Daddy would help her escape the clutches of the Dragon Queen. Finishing her drawing, Anina ran toward him and showed him that she had drawn a family portrait. Finding her extremely cute, he praised her for the amazing drawing and declared that she was worthy of being his daughter. But his happiness didn't last long. Confused, he asked Anna why there were 2 children. And she replied, "It's my sister, of course." He was shocked by this revelation. Turns out, not only did he hit the bullseye with 1 shot, but he hit it twice. He quickly realized that the little girl he had seen in the garden must now be his other daughter. He had called her by the wrong name. No wonder she was angry. Trying to cheer up her father, Anina said she didn't think her sister was mad, just a bit shy around her father. Finding her comment plausible, he said it made sense. After all, They didn't know each other well, so it was normal for her to be shy around him, and it's not his fault for not being able to tell them apart. It's all the Dragon Queen's fault for hiding this little girl from him. He needed to ask her the truth. Meanwhile, in Ross Vase's office, the Dragon Queen was reading clan reports, when suddenly a little dragon approached and informed its master of something. Moments later, Leon entered the office without knocking, and she asked where Anna was. He replied that she had gone to play with her sister. Extremely angry, he said she was good at hiding things and asked when she was going to tell him that he had an older daughter. With a mocking smile, she asked if he didn't already know that. Despite her sarcasm, he said he had to thank his wife. Giving birth to one child is hard enough. He didn't expect her to have given birth to two. His wife had worked so hard. When he returned to the Empire someday, he would definitely write her name on the family tree. Calming his anger, she asked if he knew why she hadn't told him about the existence of his older daughter. He replied that he thought she was jealous of his closeness to Aninya, so she deliberately didn't let Noah meet him as her father. Instead of confirming whether he was right or wrong, she asked if he was so eager to meet her. With a confident look, he replied, who wouldn't want to meet their daughter? He wasn't like her, a cold and severe mother. He wanted to build a good relationship with her. With a mysterious smile, she told him not to regret that decision. A little later in the kitchen, Leon, holding a knife in his hand, mentioned Ross Vase's name and started laughing like a madman. Then he declared that he would fool her today. Leon's first step to getting closer to his older daughter was through her stomach, with delicious food. He used to make this cream stew frequently for the team, and everyone who ate it said it was good. The sweet flavor was also suitable for children. Although it had been 2 years since he last cooked, the food wasn't bad. His cooking skills weren't rusty. He was confident that this flavor would certainly win over Noah. He started fantasizing that she would say she loved the food her father made, and while lost in his fantasy, the maid cheerfully commented that the prince had just recovered from a serious illness and was still cooking for his family. He was truly a good dragon male who cared for his family. As she said this, she saw Her Majesty approaching and greeted her. The Dragon Queen declared that they didn't need to wait for orders at dinner tonight. They could rest. After thanking Her Majesty, they left. As they departed, Leon remarked that they arrived just in time. Excited, Aninya exclaimed that the food smelled delicious. Seizing the moment, he said he had heard they both loved meat, so he made a stew and a special steak for them. He thought that would be enough to capture their interest. He wondered if she would feel his fatherly love, but to his surprise, Noah completely ignored him. Feeling crushed, he wondered in his mind why things were different from what he had imagined. That female dragon already knew this would happen, so she hadn't allowed him to meet Noah. As he was left wondering how to win her heart, the Dragon Queen said that since this was his daughter's first formal meeting with her father, she should introduce herself. Obeying her mother, she approached her father and said, I am Noah Kamela, the eldest daughter of the Silver Dragon Queen, Ross Vay. I am 1 year and 2 months old. Dragons are an immortal race, and dragonlings grow faster than human children. That's why they appear older than 2 years. Trying to be a good father, Leon greeted his daughter, revealed his name, and declared that he was her father. The second step for Leon to get closer to his eldest daughter was to say hello politely and leave a good impression. But this plan didn't work either. Worried, he wondered why this girl was so cold and if she held a grudge against him. Noticing her father was sad, Aninya asked her older sister to talk more and not embarrass Daddy. Instead of heeding her little sister's request, Noah said he seemed so weak and asked if he was really their father. Her words hit him hard. He didn't expect to have a daughter with such a sharp tongue. Leon's career as a father was facing its first crisis. A few minutes later, the whole family gathered at the table. Family dinners are the best occasion for family members to talk and communicate, but now it had become the most tormenting moment for Leon. As his anxiety grew, he paid attention to his new family, trying to figure out their quirks and preferences. From the way Anna asked her sister for help cutting the steak, he discovered a bit about their personalities. His daughters seemed similar, but their personalities were completely different, and it was obvious that Noah was more like her mother. It would be a difficult journey to get her to accept him as a father, but even so, he decided to make an effort and asked if she liked the food today. Instead of answering, she told him to be quiet and gave him a lecture, saying that one shouldn't talk during meals. Enjoying watching Leon being humiliated by his daughter, the Dragon Queen laughed uncontrollably. Not understanding why her mother was laughing so hard, Anna asked why she was so happy, and she replied that their father had finally managed to reunite with the family. Seeing him so happy, she too naturally felt happy. She then turned to her husband and asked why he wasn't smiling as well. With a fake smile, Leon commented that of course, he was happy to be with his beloved family. Excited, Anna asked her father to have dinner with them every day. Hesitating to say yes, He thought to himself that he didn't want to eat with this female dragon every day, but without needing to refuse his daughter's request, Noah spoke up, saying she didn't want that. Confused, Anna asked why, and Noah responded that she wanted to study in the Department of Young Dragons at the Sacred Heart Academy. The Dragon Queen explained that the Young Dragons Department of the Sacred Heart Academy was full of dragons who were 4 or 5 years old. She then asked her daughter why she was so eager to enroll, and Noah replied that it was because she wanted to defeat more dragon hunters. While wiping his mouth, he thought to himself that it seemed this brat wanted to defeat him, her own father. After cleaning up, he said that dragon hunters were all very brave, and that she was still too young, and she would end up getting hurt. With a look of disdain, Noah told him not to treat her like a little girl. Of course, no matter how much he looked at her, she was clearly still a little girl. To make him even more uncomfortable, Rossov commented that Noah's idea was very good. The sooner she learned the skills, the sooner she could fight the dragon hunters. Smiling, she asked for Leon's confirmation and then asked if he had any hidden reasons for stopping her from attending the academy. Frustrated, the protagonist thought to himself that if he continued to oppose Noah, she would surely hate him even more as a father. He could only change her mind subtly. So, pretending not to be bothered by his daughter's desire to hunt humans, he replied that he had no hidden reason to stop her. He just thought it was too dangerous for his daughter. Eating calmly, he finally realized his wife's plan. This female dragon wanted to use Noah to attack him mentally during this dinner. Her evil plan made him extremely angry, and he promised that she would receive a punishment later. Ignoring his murderous intent, she said that since he agreed, it was happily decided. The entrance test for the Sacred Heart Academy would be held in a month. During that month, he would help his daughter prepare. Despite not liking the part related to her father, Noah thanked her mother for accepting her request. After the family dinner ended, little Anna innocently showed how round her belly had become after eating so much. While the two sisters played, the protagonist called Rosve and commented that the dishes hadn't been cleaned yet. Confused by his comment, she said that servants would clean the dishes, and there was no reason for her to do it. Disagreeing with her, Leon said that after dinner, the couple should clean and wash the dishes together. That's the proper way to end a family dinner. Whispering in her ear, he says he knows she wants to create a harmonious family atmosphere in front of the little ones, even if it's just an act. Upon hearing this, she looked at her daughters and saw Anna's expectant gaze. With a sigh, she agreed with his idea. Anina raised her hand, saying she wanted to help too, but Noah ruined her happiness by grabbing her collar and pulling her away from the couple. Naturally, Anna wasn't happy with this. With their departure, the Dragon Queen put on the apron and asked when he was going to start helping. The lion, crossing his arms, asked if she'd forgotten what he said 2 years ago. A dragon should never be left alone with a highly trained and stronger dragon hunter. The moment he said this, her seal began to glow, and anxiously she asked what he was planning. He responded that before, when he traveled long distances, he was exhausted and thus controlled and toyed with by the dragon spell. But now it's different. Losing patience with his arrogance, she attacked him with her dragon tail and shouted that he couldn't escape her clutches with that trick. Holding her blow with a single hand, he asked who said he was going to flee. At the same time, the seal effect strengthened, causing her to fall to her knees. Enjoying seeing her so compliant before him, he gave a villainous smile and asked if she was powerless, explaining that the dragon's pattern makes the monster's tail extremely sensitive. When its tail is grabbed, the dragon is like a kitten caught by the back of its neck, weak and powerless. This is new knowledge he discovered in his dragon book. She and the dragons are eager to conquer and control everything, but he wonders if she has ever been conquered before. Breathing heavily, she shouted at him to release her tail. Ignoring her request, he said that since the day he woke up, she had trampled on his dignity and treated him like a mere toy. Now, things will be different. He asked what she thought about changing things tonight. Realizing his intent, she looked at him with a murderous gaze and called him a bastard. Interrupting his fun, Leon noticed what was happening outside the kitchen and heard the maids gossiping about how much Her Majesty's husband loves her and their family. When they entered the room, they were surprised at how clean it was and wondered if the lucky prince did this. While they focused on the royal family, Leon and his fiancée were hiding inside the closet. He told her to stay quiet if she didn't want the maids outside to find out, as they'd be disappointed to discover Her Majesty the Queen, normally so tall and powerful in this situation. Although she wanted to argue, she remained silent. Pleased with her obedience, he declared to his dear wife that the fun was about to start. 3 days later, in the Queen of Dragons' castle, the sisters went to their father and were surprised that he hadn't woken up in 3 days. They wondered if he was still alive. Losing patience, Noah decided to wake him up right away, and without hesitation, she kicked him in the face. It was effective. The pain woke him up, and acting like his mother, she commented that he still wasn't dead. Feeling irritated, Leon asked, "Who treats their own father like this?" Seeing his eyes open, Anna was extremely happy and told her mother that her daddy was awake again. Rising, Leon asked when he passed out. Instead of answering, Ross mockingly asked if he needed her help to remember. The moment she asked, he remembered that after that night, the dragon pattern was invalidated, and he was severely hit by her. Her reaction made him certain that this dragon was cruel. If he were an ordinary person, he would have died many times under her claws, but upon closer inspection, she was rather beautiful, despite being clearly a female dragon over 200 years old. As he drifted off in admiration of his wife's beauty, Anna asked why her father hadn't moved, and Noah answered that he simply stared at her mother and was dazed by her beauty. Meanwhile, Ross accidentally dropped something on the floor, and taking advantage of the moment, Leon approached her, picked it up, and put it in her hair, saying it suited her well. Smiling, she replied that she didn't expect him to be so attentive, and asked if he'd done that for other women before. He replied that as a child, he often groomed his master's donkey's coat and was very skilled at it. Curious, Anna asked her father what a donkey was, and he explained that donkeys are similar to dragons with 2 ears and a tail. They are very stubborn and like to bray when they are unhappy, just like their mother. Naturally, his joke made the Dragon Queen angry, and she elbowed him in the stomach. Seeing her father in pain, little Anina asked if he was okay, and despite the pain, he replied he was fine. Unlike her sister, Noah was happy to see her father suffer. Unbothered by his pain, the Dragon Queen announced that today, her daughter's task was to learn how to write their names. Their father would teach them. Naturally, the protagonist was annoyed at her assigning him another task without his permission. Despite his bad mood, Anna was delighted to learn that her father would teach her to write, while, full of arrogance, Noah remarked that she could already write. Unbothered by whether her sister actually knew how to write, Anna grabbed her arm and called her to the study room to find a pen in pretty colors. Curious, Noah asked which color her little sister wanted, and Anina replied, purple. Watching her daughters walk away, the Dragon Queen said her sister was visiting today, and that she didn't want him to appear before her sister. Teasingly, he asked why she wouldn't let him meet her family too. She approached him and whispered in his ear that he, Leon Cosmod, is now a male dragon married to a girl from the Silver Dragon clan. He's been in a coma for 2 years due to some illness and recently woke up. If they ever had to make a public appearance, he would have to use the identity she invented. Realizing he was at a disadvantage at the moment, he agreed to follow her plan, telling Her Majesty he would do so. After hearing his confirmation, she went to meet her sister. Leon scoffed and wondered in his mind if the female dragon thought he would obey her obediently. He planned to embarrass her in front of her sister. At the Silver Dragon Castle in the children's study room, Leon, seated at the table, explained to his daughters to follow what he would teach them. He wrote their names on the paper and asked them to copy it several times. While they studied, he would handle something. Taking the paper, Noah commented that it wasn't as good as her mother's writing, and Anna asked what her father was going to do. He replied he had simply forgotten to give something to their mother and would give it to her and return to check on them later. Watching him leave, Noah asked if he was an idiot. Despite her sister's rude comment, Anna said she seemed a little happy, and she stammered in denial and said she'd write quickly. Despite her words, her face was flushed. She enjoyed having a father. At the same time, at the gates of Silver Dragon Castle, Issa MKV, the Red Dragon Queen, had arrived in her sister's territory. Excited, Ross hugged her sister, saying it had been a long time since she'd seen her. Pushing her away, the Red Dragon Queen said she hadn't seen her little sister in a year. She seemed much rosier now. Placing her hand on her face, Ross bashfully replied that she didn't think so, and the redhead commented that she heard that her sister's husband woke up and asked why he couldn't see him, and she replied that he's feeling a bit unwell today and can't meet him for now. Disappointed, the redhead said it was a shame. She also wants to see what the Dragon King who stole her sister's heart looks like. As she got closer, she said that the Dragon King's bond is all about profit and clan, with no love involved. Yet, she and her mysterious husband got married and had a baby at lightning speed. Their relationship must be very good. Embarrassed, she said that being married and having children doesn't mean the relationship is good. She doesn't feel attracted to him. Not now, and not in the future. Naturally, the redhead didn't believe her sister. She's not acting as cold as before. Interrupting her thoughts, she said it's been a while since they last met, and invited her sister to go to the garden and talk while they walked. While the two were heading to the garden, Proto, using a telescope to spy on them, discovered who Ras Vase's sister was. Excited to put his plan into action, he commented that he'll try to see how far the dragon's pattern can go. At the same time, Ruve explained that the Dragon Clan has been a bit unstable lately, especially the Red Flame Dragon King. This guy has been very active recently. Upon hearing this, Ross Vase became concerned, her face extremely serious. Curious, she said that Constantine hasn't been seen in years. The redhead said that he's a hot-tempered guy, but maybe he just wanted to take the opportunity to expand his territory. At the moment she said this, the seal on the body of the Queen of Silver Dragons began to glow, and she was worried. She hadn't expected this to happen just now. Realizing that her sister was acting strangely, the redhead asked if something was wrong, and she replied that nothing was wrong. After finishing her sentence, she looked towards Leon and cursed him in her mind. Interrupting her thoughts, the redhead said that just in case they need to strengthen the border defense, she'll also send Shimon to contact her if there are any new developments there. Even though her sister was talking about something important, she couldn't focus. The dragon pattern effect was getting stronger. If it continues like this, she'll end up losing control in front of her sister. Noticing that her little sister continued to act strangely, the redhead asked Little Rose if she was really okay. Her face was red, and she was trembling as if she wanted to go to the bathroom. She replied that she suddenly remembered she had something urgent to handle and would return in about 20 minutes. Thinking her sister needed the bathroom, she told Little Rose to go ahead and asked if she wanted company. Naturally, Ross Vase replied that it wasn't necessary. Seeing her little sister running anxiously toward her room, the redhead couldn't hold back anymore and began to laugh. She saw the dragon pattern on her sister's body and knew what the young couple was about to do. She hadn't expected to see her arrogant sister so in love. Meanwhile, Leon was completely relaxed. He was eager to see how long she could hold out, and as he expected, she couldn't resist for long. She entered the room extremely irritated, and he, pretending to be clueless, asked why she came back so quickly. She, grabbing him by the collar, asked if he deliberately chose that moment to make the dragon pattern resonate just to embarrass her in front of her sister. Anticipating her reaction, he decided to pretend to be innocent to fool her. Acting like an innocent puppy, he asked if it was wrong to want her. His response completely caught her off guard. Her face turned extremely red. Seeing how she reacted, he misunderstood, thinking his plan worked, assuming that now, at least, she felt disgusted with him. With a blushing face, she called him shameless and yelled that she didn't understand why a defeated prisoner was talking so much nonsense, ordering him to keep his dirty thoughts to himself. After saying this, she thought to herself that of course she came to this place to deal with him, so why was she startled by just a few words from him? Pretending to be strong, she said he only gets this one chance. If he does it again, next time she won't forgive him. Of course, Proto wasn't worried at all. He was enjoying this situation. He hadn't expected that a single dirty word would leave her so defenseless. This dragon pattern was truly powerful, but something was bothering him. He didn't understand why. When he thought of her face, his heart raced. He didn't understand what it was, but it didn't feel good. He had to stop thinking about nonsense to avoid feeling this strange emotion. The children were waiting for him to return to review their writings. They were indeed waiting for him. While Noah pretended not to care, Anna wondered why her father hadn't returned yet. After leaving the gates of the Temple of the Silver Dragons, the Crimson Empress bid farewell to her sister. Ross Vase told her to be careful on her way home, but before parting, the Crimson Empress remarked that next time, she'd like to meet her sister's husband. Acting insincerely, the Queen of Dragons declared she would introduce him next time, while watching her sister depart swiftly toward her own territory. Ross Vase cursed the wretched dragon hunter, muttering that he still hadn't learned his lesson and that tonight she'd teach him a good one. Feeling someone bad-mouthing him, Leon sneezed and wondered if the dragon woman was talking about him right at that moment. He had just finished reading the children's book, the story of the young dragon, to his daughters who had quickly fallen asleep. After covering his little girls, he tried to sneak out of the room quietly, but was interrupted by Ross Vase, who irritably asked where he thought he was going. Frightened at being caught sneaking away, he tried to change the subject by asking if her sister had already left. With a sinister smile, she asked if he had any unfinished business, and stated that it didn't matter if he did or not. He must follow her somewhere. Later, in the room of the Silver Dragon Queen, Leon picked up a basin of warm water and asked what she needed it for. Arrogantly, she responded that she'd been walking all day and was exhausted, so he must help her wash her feet. Naturally, he was surprised by her answer, but ignoring his shock, she ordered him to stop fussing and do as she commanded, as punishment for what he'd done earlier. Though he didn't want to suffer such humiliation, Leon had no choice but to obey, since he was in enemy territory. He had never imagined that he, a proud dragon hunter, would be reduced to serving a female dragon. This woman knew exactly how to ruin his mood. He didn't know how many dragon hunters she had trampled with those very feet. Noticing him standing still, she asked why he was just staring at her feet, and if, by any chance, he had some strange foot fetish. While she blushed, he suddenly placed her foot in the basin. Rossface didn't expect him to do this without warning. She hadn't mentally prepared herself and ended up scalding her foot. Full of anger, she kicked him in the face, sending him flying. She then stepped on his stomach and asked if he intended to take revenge on her. With a mocking smile, he said she was the one who'd asked him to help her wash her feet. Blushing, she remarked that it seemed he still hadn't learned his lesson. She then asked if he'd ever thought that one day he might be stepped on by a dragon, and what would happen if she placed her foot on his weak spot. The moment she stepped on his weak spot, he let out a squeal, and with a red face, he begged her to stop. In his mind, he cursed himself for actually enjoying the comforting sensation, despite its extreme humiliation. Amused by his expression, the Dragon Queen smiled and said she wanted to see how much he could endure. Leon knew he couldn't submit to this woman's tyranny. If he did, he'd become her plaything for the rest of his life. So, he strengthened his willpower, pushed her foot away from his weak spot, and declared that he had eaten pig legs, chicken feet, and lamb hooves, but had never tasted dragon legs. Realizing his intent, she grew alarmed and tried to retreat, but it was too late. Before she could react, he declared that tonight there would be a special. He'd eat dragon foot. He bit her leg, and in great pain, she screamed his name with all her might, swearing that she would make his life hell. The next day, the twins were confused when they saw their parents and asked why their mother was limping. With her leg bandaged, she replied that it was nothing. Then, Anna asked why their father had a bandage on his face, and he gave the same answer as his mother. Puzzled by the situation, she misunderstood and thought her parents were hiding some fun game from them, declaring that she wanted to join too. Later, in the garden outside the Silver Dragon Castle, as Leon and the Dragon Queen strolled, the maids gossiped that the queen and the prince were on a date and made a lovely couple. But among them, one wondered why she felt that Her Majesty the Queen and the prince didn't seem very familiar with each other. Meanwhile, after staring at his wife for a while, Leon wondered why things had ended up this way. A few hours earlier, he'd been confused by her request for a walk and asked why he should walk with her. Rossface replied that it was also his duty to maintain a false appearance of family harmony in front of strangers. Leon realized something was wrong with the Dragon Queen that day. She was not usually so proactive. He didn't know what she was planning, which was concerning. Watching the two of them walking through the garden, Anna, hidden behind a tree, commented that her father was so clueless he couldn't even hold hands. Excited, she decided to help them have a perfect date. Worried, Noah tried to stop her sister, but Anna was quicker and left her behind, greeting her parents. Seeing his daughter, Leon asked why she had followed him. Before answering, she took her parents' hands and made them hold hands, saying that when they walked, they should walk hand in hand. After saying that, she ran off, saying she was going to play with her sister. Surprised, he wondered where this child had learned all this. While her sister scolded her, she confessed she was wrong, promised not to do it again, and begged her sister to stop pinching her cheek. Embarrassed, Leon commented that this was a bit unexpected, and asked what they should do. Rossface, with a flushed face, replied that it was fine. He just needed to hold it that way. Puzzled by her behavior, Leon remarked that she seemed unusually gentle today, which made him slightly uncomfortable. Defensively, she said that it seemed he had been tamed by her, and now when she treated him kindly, he thought it strange because he wasn't used to it. Hearing her response, he thought to himself that Rossface had always been the picture of a queen in front of others, but he hadn't expected her to be shaken by something as minor as holding hands. Maybe her image as a strict mother was simply because she didn't know how to get close to her daughters. Curious, he asked if Anna and Noah always called her mother in front of her. Confused, she asked if there was a problem, and he replied that usually when a child is under 5 years old, they always call their mother mommy. Anna herself always calls him daddy, but she calls Rossface mother. It seems the little one is more distant from her. Annoyed, she asked if there was really a big difference between mother and mommy, and he answered that there certainly was, advising her to try to get the twins to call her mommy instead of mother. He bet they'd feel closer to her than they did now. His advice, along with his smile, made the Dragon Queen blush even more. Embarrassed, she turned her face and said she'd try next time. As he was pulled along by the arm, he asked why she was suddenly walking so quickly. Instead of answering, she asked if he missed home. Confused, he asked why she'd suddenly ask that, since she wouldn't let him return anyway. She replied that although she couldn't let him go home, she had something that might help him alleviate his homesickness a bit. A few minutes later, in the castle's storeroom, they stood in front of a huge door, and Rossface remarked that she hadn't given this room a name, but Leon could call it the storeroom, the small dimensions room, or whatever he wanted. It didn't matter. Finishing her comment, she opened the gate and entered. Entering inside, Leon wondered if this was the place where the dragon's treasure was. Seeing the items in the hall, he said that if this was placed in the Empire, it could be sold for at least hundreds of thousands of gold coins. She explained that this is the bracelet her grandmother gave her when she was little. Besides the spoils, there are also some things that are meaningful to her. Surprised, Leon said he hadn't heard her talk much about other members of her family except her sister. She explained that she had never seen her father or mother. Her sister and she were raised by their grandmother. Hearing about her past, Leon commented that it was similar to his own. He grew up in an orphanage and never knew his parents. He was adopted by his master and his wife. Changing the subject, he asked why exactly she brought him to this place, and she replied that she had just obtained something that could make him temporarily forget his problems. This something was the black gold armor. This item truly left him shocked. He had always wanted this armor back. He began to think he was dreaming. He hadn't imagined she would actually return this armor to him. The Dragon Queen, with a sinister smile, confirmed that she was indeed giving this rare treasure to him. Extremely happy, Leon touched the armor, and at that moment, the mark of the enchanted dragon appeared on the treasure. Shocked, Leon asked in his mind, how did the black gold armor, his good brother, end up in this situation as well? Satisfied with his frustration, Ross revealed that he had finally fallen into her trap. Eagerly, Leon asked what the Dragon Queen had done, and with a smile on her face, she replied that she had placed a dragon mark with enhanced attributes on the surface of the armor. The moment he touched it, the mark activated. Feeling weak, Leon fell to his knees, cursing Rossface and regretting ever trusting her. Interrupting his thoughts, she revealed that the effect of the dragon mark doubles and asked if her dragon hunter husband could endure it. Despite his dignity as a dragon hunter being trampled, he couldn't muster the strength to fight back. The dragon mark left him completely at Rossface's mercy. All he could do was curse the dragon as he couldn't move, but the urgency in his diminutive form was more intense than ever. To worsen his sense of humiliation, the Dragon Queen asked if he thought she had forgotten what he did to win her over. She confessed she had been plotting her revenge all these days, seeking ways to lower his guard. She didn't expect him to fall so easily. Her performance had been flawless, and he hadn't suspected a thing. Losing his patience, he asked if everything she said today was a lie, about never knowing her parents, letting the girls call her mom, or even letting him hold her hand. Smiling, she replied that it was all true, but didn't change her plans for him now. As he had said before, she truly loved being in control. After finishing her preparations, she seductively smiled and asked if her dear husband was ready. He had lost this battle. All he could do was curse his wife and try to maintain his dignity. But after hours, he could no longer keep his arrogance. He was relieved when she was finally satisfied. He couldn't take the torment anymore. Noticing her staring at him, he asked what she wanted now. She pinched his cheek and replied that compared to 2 years ago, the scars on his face had diminished slightly, and he had gained a more modest and mature expression. Pulling away from her, he said she was only trying to deceive him, but he wouldn't fall into her trap again. Smiling, she commented that he had grown smarter, though his body had weakened significantly. Her comment shocked him, and it took him a while to process it. The next day, Leon, looking like a zombie who hadn't slept in years, opened his bedroom door and was greeted by his wife and daughter Noah, who wore a mischievous smile. The queen commented that it seemed he hadn't slept well, to which he irritably asked whose fault that was. Laughing, she said she had no idea and didn't remember anything. Watching them argue, Noah thought to herself that they were at it again. Changing the subject, Rossface mentioned that the entrance exam for Senta's Academy was very rigorous. Today, he needed to start teaching Noah about dragon knowledge. Approaching him, she whispered that after yesterday, for now, he could only prove his worth in other areas. Losing patience, he shouted that yesterday he just wasn't in good shape, but he would make sure Noah passed this test. However, afterward, he wanted something in return. Liking his confidence, she said she had no problem accepting, as long as his request wasn't excessive. After saying this, she turned and wished the 2 good studies, advising her dear husband not to overdo it. Seeing her father irritated, Noah asked why he was arguing with her mom. He replied that they weren't arguing, it was just his way of talking. Realizing something, he changed the subject and asked what she just called Rossface. She replied, "Mom." Excited, he asked if Ross had told her to call her that and if she liked it more than before. Embarrassed, Noah admitted she liked it better this way. Her adorable response made Leon smile with pure joy as he said he knew she would like it. His fatherly smile filled with love surprised her. Embarrassed, she changed the subject and urged him to start studying. Later, in the Silver Dragon Castle, in the study hall for his daughters, Leon was preparing the next lesson when Rossface suddenly appeared, asking why he hadn't gone to bed yet. He replied that Noah had a great capacity for learning, so simple lessons didn't suit her. He planned to organize key points of knowledge along with potential test questions for her to practice. He just needed a bit more time to prepare this lesson plan. She was very smart, so he was sure she could pass the test with just a month of study. Smirking arrogantly, the Dragon Queen said it was inevitable. After all, the girl took after her. Annoyed by her arrogance, he commented that he doubted it. He had graduated as a genius, ranking first in both written exams and practical dragon hunting tests every year, earning the highest honors at the school. After boasting a bit, he asked what awards she had won. His arrogance irritated her. She had always thought he was just a brute who knew only how to fight and kill dragons. She never imagined he was also highly intelligent. To diminish his confidence, she asked how, if he was so smart, he ended up as her prisoner. Leon had no answer for her question. All he could do was curse his bad luck. With tears in his eyes, he said one misstep led to this eternal suffering. When a tiger falls into the valley, it is trampled by the dragon. Delighting in his misery, she asked if this queen had trampled on him. At the moment of her question, she noticed peppers on the table and curiously asked what he planned to do with them. He replied that he brought them from the kitchen to stay awake. Finishing his statement, he took a bite of the pepper. Seeing this, Ross panicked and told him not to eat it, as it was a yellow pepper from the dragon clan. Humans like him couldn't handle it, but it was too late. In less than a second, he felt his entire body burning from within and begged for water. Acting like a madman, he ran back and forth, but his frantic running didn't last long. Ross suddenly held his face. Embarrassed, she said her hands were quite cool, so she thought it would make him feel better. Her plan worked perfectly. The tips of her fingers were cool and pleasant, not as cold as ice cubes, but refreshing and smooth. She ended up helping him a lot. Because of this, Leon thanked her for helping him feel better. Hearing his thanks, she pulled away, and both avoided eye contact, completely embarrassed. Trying to hide her embarrassment, she told him to go to bed soon and stop eating peppers. If he got sick or hurt his mouth, he'd have to use sign language to teach Noah. Watching his wife leave the room, Leon thought to himself that for a moment, he considered letting her touch his face a little more, but he quickly recovered. It was she who had lured him into a trap and drained him to the point of exhaustion. She was an evil dragon, and he must never forget that. Just thinking about it again irritated him. He had to find a way to recover quickly, so he began searching for a treasure that could help him. He found in a book that the red dragon fruit had effects on regulating energy and blood, but that wasn't what he needed. The liano herb could regulate digestive functions when ingested and treat wounds when applied externally, but that wasn't it either. As he began to lose hope, he finally found what he was looking for. The next day, Leon told his daughter that he had finished grading the test exam she took. The maximum percentage was 100, and he asked if she could guess how many points she got. She replied, 50. But to her surprise, Leon revealed that she scored 62 points. A little higher than he expected. She wasn't satisfied with her grade, as she was excited to achieve a better score next time. That's right, Leon thought to himself. It's understandable that she isn't happy with her result. She has high expectations for herself. At her age, she should be playing carefreely like Anna, but she chose to enroll in a school to study. Stroking her hair, he comforted her, saying that 62 points is a very good result. Feeling her father's affection for the first time, she blushed and thanked him for the compliment. Then, the protagonist said they would now focus on the questions she got wrong. But before doing so, he started to chat casually. He quickly noticed that the peppers he ate last night had left his throat sore. To cheer himself up, he ended up eating more peppers despite his wife's warning. Seeing her father feeling unwell, Noah remembered that her mother had said he was working on a study plan for her that night. This idiot! She thought. He usually seems unreliable, but he is very smart. However, during the night, he ate super spicy yellow peppers from the dragon clan to stay awake, which would make it difficult for his throat to be healthy in the morning. With this memory, she realized what was happening and handed something to her father. Taking the gift from his daughter, he asked what it was, and she replied that it was from Mom, not from her. Smiling at his daughter's innocent gesture, he told her to thank Ross Vase for him. At the same time, he thought to himself that she is like Ross Vase, cold on the outside, but occasionally capable of showing kindness. Feeling encouraged, he called her to continue studying, bringing the father and daughter a bit closer. Later, in the castle of the Silver Dragons, the maids delivered all the ingredients Leon had asked them to bring. He made them fetch some irrelevant ingredients to ensure they wouldn't guess what he was doing. The ingredients needed to prepare the dragon's strength were fairly common, and the steps weren't very complicated. But he wondered why it was said that even the best dragon alchemist had a low success rate when preparing the dragon's strength. First, he ground and mixed the ingredients to be used. Then, he placed them in a specific order in the pot for cooking. These were the initial steps. But after a few hours, he failed again. Although disappointed, he had expected this. It wasn't simple to accomplish. He had followed the book's method multiple times and always failed at the last step of purification and separation of the medicine. The high-temperature separation method mentioned in the book could nullify the medicine if the temperature was too high. If it was too low, he wouldn't achieve a pure medicine. Through trial and error, he realized that manually stirring wasn't sufficient for separation. Professional instruments were needed. His master always said that if one path doesn't work, one must look for other options, but he didn't know the effective way to separate medicinal residues. As he racked his brain, he saw lightning in the sky and realized it was about to rain. Thinking about lightning and thunder, he got an idea. He remembered that in alchemy class, the professor once said that using electricity to purify impurities sometimes had a higher success rate than fire cooking. He decided to try distillation using his lightning magic, which wasn't mentioned in the book. Although he wasn't sure how efficient his lightning magic would be with his limited magical power, he had enough control to execute it precisely. Half an hour later, he finally succeeded in his creation using this new tactic. Preparing dragon medicines became simpler. At that moment, Anna suddenly appeared, asking what her father was doing. Without paying attention, he replied it was something good she would see soon. Realizing it was Anna, he panicked and tried to hide the pill, saying it was nothing. The little one, innocent as always, thought her dad was hiding candy. To quell her curiosity, he said it was medicine for her mom. Concerned, she asked if her mom was sick, and he reassured her that wasn't the case. He explained that Ross Vase had been working hard lately, so he was preparing something to help her recover. She didn't need to worry. In truth, he had made it for himself, but didn't tell her the truth. Innocent as she was, Anna believed him and asked him to take good care of her mom. Feeling guilty for lying, Leon replied that it was his duty as a father. At the same time, he thought to himself that once fully recovered, he would take good care of her. Even though he had prepared the dragon's strength, he wasn't sure if the dragon supplements would have side effects on humans. As he considered leaving it for now, he heard a knock on his room door. Before he could say anything, the Dragon Queen entered. Surprised, he asked what she was doing there. She replied that she had heard from their daughter that he prepared a special medicine resembling chocolate candy to help her recover her health. Leon hadn't expected his little dragon to gossip so quickly. Interrupting his thoughts, Ross Vase told him not to be nervous. She wasn't there to question him. She was just surprised he could make potions in such a rudimentary setting. Approaching him, she asked to see what he had prepared. Although annoyed, he handed it to her, knowing she would take it by force if he refused. Upon seeing the medicine, she praised her husband for being able to elaborate dragon's strength so perfectly under such conditions, demonstrating his talent, as they say, talent in letters and arms. Surprised by her praise, Leon's happiness was quickly dashed when she said he could keep it, but the medicine couldn't be consumed yet. Confused, he asked why. She explained that, as it was a dragon supplement, its effect was too strong for the human body. He hadn't expected the medicine to be so powerful. Seeing his disbelief, she told him it was for his own good. As a human, he wouldn't withstand its effects. But despite her warning, he dismissed her concerns. Even though it was made for dragons, he was confident he could handle it easily, since he had defeated countless real dragons. What could this little pill do? Ross Vase was underestimating him. Finishing his statement, he swallowed the pill without hesitation, declaring that courage is the anthem of humanity. Seeing his recklessness, the Dragon Queen panicked. At the same time, Leon felt immense pain, as if his body was being destroyed from within. Concerned, Ross Vase cursed him for being an idiot and exclaimed that she wasn't very skilled with healing magic. Even so, she tried her best to help him using her magic. Her plan was to undo the medicine's effects first. But to her surprise, he held her hand and shouted for her not to move. The Silver Dragon Queen must witness what was about to happen. This is the courage and determination of humanity. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any details of this adventure.